Promised Neverland burst onto the scene in early 2019, and even early on, utterly captivated viewers with the seemingly innocent hijinks of orphans awaiting their time to be picked up to join a new loving family. What followed was one of the greatest ever episode 1 plot twists alongside the likes of School Live, as the plot was turned on its head and the reveal was that the facility kept children happy and fed until they were ripe for consumption by literal monsters. Without a great execution, this would have seemed like a childish cartoon, but instead the main story was propped up alongside excellent voice acting, fantastic animation, a very serious and often dark and foreboding tone, and an out-of-this-world official soundtrack, all lending themselves to creating this beautifully horrifying story of very clever planning, survival, and of course later escape from this prison into the wider world. As we reached the exciting culmination of the first season, viewers including myself were blown away by the final escape. It was a height that few anime are able to possess, and almost unilaterally love. I mean, even professional haters were out there wiping tears from their eyes as they sniffed and said under their collective breath, "This show sucks." So when we heard that season 2 was on its way, we rejoiced. We all got together and partied, metaphorically, but I felt the love even over here in cold old England, as we awaited the promised day that The Promised Neverland season 2 would land in early 2021, just 2 years later. Everything was lining up perfectly. They had just under 2 years to create it. It was being made by the same studio that did the first. We were in for a treat, we all thought. Again in our own heads, but still together. Then we found out it was 11 episodes, and that caused some people to say, uh-oh. This is Sinful, the broken promise of The Promised Neverland Season 2. As always, please drop me a like and a comment, and watching as much of the video as possible is a huge help. My Patreon is also down below if you'd like to help feed my doggos. Thanks! The Promised Neverland second season took place immediately following the events of the first. The children were still in the midst of their epic escape from the horrific monstrosities that stalked them in the woods, desperate to regain control of their product and delicate meals. But things soon took a dark turn when it was abundantly clear that the studio had just decided to skip an entire arc. An arc that is arguably one of the greatest and most important for the entire universe of the story. It contains the best villain. It goes on to explain so many of the details that went in to become plot holes in the second season due to not being explained or merely rushed through regardless. A huge chunk of absolute grade A quality storytelling merely ripped out of the script and passed over, and for what reason I still do not really know 100%. The plot jumping ahead was so poorly done that it even caused anime-only fans such as myself at the time to question what the hell was going on. Everything went from a normal speed to going 100 miles per hour out of the blue. It was shocking and unsettling, and in many ways, I'm glad I was anime only at the time for that reason, as it ultimately hurt less. The second season should have been, at the very least, the roundup to cap off an outstandingly well written and put together story, the cherry on top of the delicious story cake. But instead it was the coup de grace, the wounded animal limping lamely towards the sad amalgamation that was this new, now mismatched story. It could have been, in an ideal world, the second of perhaps even up to 4 seasons of excellent content, expertly pacing out a beautiful series of events filled with character growth, action, and yet more outstanding music, but it was not to be. For this reason, The Promised Neverland Season 2 is worthy of this Sinful video, which normally does a bit of a deep dive on the dumbest moments in anime, because in the end of the day, they ruined what was once a shining gem of an anime, capable of so much potential, and you can likely bet that somewhere along the way, money was involved. At this point, I'd like to say a thank you to the animators who worked so hard on the second season. You can bet your bottom dollar that the decision to rush to the end of the show was one made up high. So I give my thanks to their hard work, those who worked on the music and putting everything together too, and of course the voice actors, and everyone else on the ground floor as it were. To finish up, perhaps one of the greatest flaws was to essentially tease so much greatness in the final episode, making it seem like it went even faster, as it showed different demons, a dragon looking dude, and told the story of Emma travelling and saving people, and yet, it all shot by in under 5 minutes. I was flabbergasted. Again, even as an anime only, I knew full well what was happening was insane. I cannot even imagine being a fan of the manga since the early days of its release and then having to watch that train wreck. In many ways, it's best to see the anime for its first season. Yes, it's then open-ended, but at least it remains that shining gem that way. But perhaps we may get lucky and in the future another studio brings it back for a new release, showing the entire story from start to finish and giving the manga the justice that it deserves. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Sinful. You can also check out some new videos at the end of this one in a moment's time. Don't forget to, assuming you've not watched it, check out the first episode of Sinful covering the stupidity behind the kill all the Japanese moment in Code Geass. And please don't forget that like and comment. It's very important, and hopefully I'll see you all next time for more. Chris Harris, Ted L, Inakami and Water, Manuel Morales, Marquez, Nick Wyndham, Warkeeper, Steelers, The Ever Commander, Bird Without a Word, Blitzcow, Brandon Krier, Gaten 2000, Kieran Robinson, Comfoy, Kim Hunt, Magnus, Matthew Castelline, Nathan Bird, Sean, Ali 50, Dark Lord Bloody Soul, Guru, Isabel Caldera, Your Edvinson, Jonas Stahl, Jordan Samuels, Jaffa6263, Kellogg's, Kepan, Kevin Melter, Bonito, Luis Cruz, Matthew Blanchett, Matt the Marshmallow, 1928, Sentimento, Storm 970, The Element Taylor Wars.